Hello everyone, how are you all? I hope students, you people are doing fine in your home and studying properly in your home, utilizing your time. Students, we were discussing your second chapter of geography, that is physical features of India. In that we were discussing about the northern plains, that how many northern plains parts were there. In that two parts we have discussed. So let's just begin with the third part. Okay.
The Rajasthan plains comprise the Thar Desert of Rajasthan. These plains are surrounded by the river Satluj in the northwest, the Aravalli Range in the east, the Indus Valley in the west, and the Rann of Kutch in the south. The plains stretch across both India and Pakistan. Luni is the only significant river in these plains. Smaller, rain-fed rivers originate from the Aravallis during the monsoons, but they usually don't have enough water to reach the sea, so they disappear into the sand of the desert.
Yes, students. So here Lord is saying that in the Rajasthan plains, this Indus River is having the different tributaries which go to the northern plain. Okay, then the river Luni, it is having a major role in this Rajasthan plain. It is kind of a lifeline to that part. Okay, and there are different deserts. Thar Desert, Rann of Kutch, and Aravalli Range is there, which is covering that. Okay, so likewise you need to learn this all details. Okay.
To the east of the Aravallis, mainly in the states of Uttar Pradesh and Bihar, lie the Ganga plains. The Ganga plains are formed by the sediments of river Ganga and its right bank tributaries, namely the Yamuna, Chambal, Betwa and Son. Its left bank tributaries are Gomti, Ghagra, Gandak and Kosi. The river originates from two head streams in the Gangotri Glacier. The two head streams are called the Alaknanda and the Bhagirathi. They join at Devprayag. From here, the river is known as the Ganga River. This part of the plain is called the Upper Ganga Plain. It lies largely in the western part of Uttar Pradesh. It is the best developed area of the plains for agriculture. The river Ganga and its tributaries Yamuna, Chambal, Betwa, Gomti and Ghagra flow through this region. The middle Ganga plain comprises the eastern part of Uttar Pradesh and the northern part of Bihar. This region tends to get flooded due to heavy rainfall but is well suited for agriculture. It is drained by the Ganga and its major tributaries Gomti, Ghagra, Gandak, Kosi and Son. The lower Ganga plains are located near West Bengal. These plains are very flat. The river bifurcates here. The channel that flows southwards is now known as the Hooghly River, while the main channel that flows into Bangladesh is known as Padma. The Padma finally joins the Brahmaputra River. Collectively, these rivers form the world's largest delta, which is covered by thick mangrove forests called the Sundarbans.
So students, you have seen that how this Ganga river is got formed from the two different origins of this glaciers. Okay, that is Alaknanda and what? The other just mentioned in the comment box. Okay, and you have seen that how it is distributed into the different parts. Okay, this all you have seen in the last video also. It is just learn this all things like how this river Ganga is like, when the direction of this river is changing place to the different states, so how it is getting divided into the different tributaries and how the river names were like changed. Okay, so in that way you just need to remember this all details. Okay.
The Brahmaputra plains lie to the far east of India. The river Brahmaputra originates near Lake Mansarovar and flows eastwards. Outside India, the river is known as Zangpo. The Brahmaputra enters India through a gap in the eastern Himalayas at a place called Namacha Barwa and then forms the Brahmaputra plains. The eastern Himalayas lie to the north of these plains, and the Garo and Khasi hills lie to the south. The Naga hills border it on the east, while the Ganga plains form its western boundary. These plains are formed by the sediments brought by the Brahmaputra river and its tributaries, which often flood during the monsoon season. On reaching Bangladesh, it forms a delta along with river Ganga before draining into the Bay of Bengal. The fertile plains formed by these three rivers occupy just 1/5 of the area of South Asia but support nearly half its population.
So you have seen how this Brahmaputra river is like a lifeline to the whole northeast states, okay, and how the plain of this Brahmaputra works, okay. So likewise students, you need to just learn all the details, okay. Now just let's go for the quiz section, that which kind of questions can be framed from this topics, okay. Yes, so there are 3 questions. The first one is, one of the major rivers flowing in the North Indian plain is, now we are talking about the North Indian plain. So there are 4 options, 4 rivers like that, the Krishna, Godavari, Brahmaputra and Chambal. So what will be the right answer? So it is the Brahmaputra, okay. Next question is, which is the world's largest delta? There are 4 options, Krishna Delta, Mahanadi Delta, Godavari Delta and Sundarban Delta. Okay, so let's just see. It is the Sundarban Delta which is the world's largest delta. Okay. Now it is saying the North Indian rivers like Ganga have gained importance in the lives of Indians because, now it is asking why the river Ganga has gained importance in our lives. Okay, so there are 4 options: provide plenty of water and fertile soil, provide plenty of fish to eat, are useful for water transport, or absorb a lot of sewage. So it is kind of a tricky one. Let's just see it. It is the provide plenty of water and fertile soil. Why? Because as we have seen that how the Ganga river is like flowing from the north till this northeast, and it is like getting divided into the different tributaries also. So yes, Ganga has a very important place in our lives. Okay, now students, let's go to the new topic. Okay, northern plains we have discussed. Now we have to discuss about the peninsular plateau. Okay, so what is the peninsular plateau? We will discuss. So peninsular plateau of India, just listen carefully.
India is bound by the lofty Himalayas in the north and water bodies on its other 3 sides. This unusual structure of India makes it a peninsula.
Yes, students. So what it is said that the northern part of our country is covered with mountains, that is Himalaya, and the rest 3 parts is covered with the water. So why it is called as peninsula? Whenever it is asking peninsular things, so that means what? Our country is the 3 part. Okay, we are having 4 parts. So the upper part is covered with the mountains, but rest of the 3 parts. Okay, here, and here. Okay, so these east, west, and south part of our country is covered with the water. So countries whose 3 parts were like covered with the water is called as peninsular country. So that is why it is called as India's peninsula. Okay.
The major part of the Indian peninsula is a plateau which is made of ancient, hard, igneous and metamorphic rocks.
Okay, so plateaus are basically formed of the rocks. Which kind of rocks? So the igneous and the metamorphic rocks. Okay.
The plateau's northwest boundary is marked by the Aravalli mountain range. The northern extreme is marked by the Bundelkhand plateau, while the eastern extreme has the Chota Nagpur plateau. The eastern Ghats and the western Ghats lie on the eastern and the western sides of the peninsula plateau. Let us learn more about the location of the different parts of the plateau.
Okay, so here it is saying in the middle part it is the Bundelkhand plateau, the Chota Nagpur plateau, and the Aravalli range were like covered. Okay, and this all were how it is covered. The plateaus were made of what? So we have just discussed that it is made of igneous and metamorphic rocks. Okay.
The central plateau comprises the Malwa plateau and the Bundelkhand plateau. It stretches from the Aravalli range in the west to the Kaimur and Maikal ranges in the east. It is bound by the Vindhya and the Satpura ranges in its south and the northern plains to its north.
So students, now we are discussing about the plateaus in the different categories. So the first one is the central plateaus, which what is the range of that plateau? We were like discussing. So this whatever the names were mentioned in the video. Okay, so these are the boundaries for the central plateau. Okay.
The Malwa plateau, the largest of the plateaus of this region, is flat-topped but has many ravines. It is dissected by rivers like the Banas, Chambal, Sindh, Betwa, Kane and Son. To the northeast of the Malwa plateau is the Bundelkhand plateau, which stretches between the river Yamuna and the Vindhya range. These are uplands with elevations ranging from 100 to 300 meters.
Okay, so you have seen how this Bundelkhand plateau is a part of the central plateau. Okay, and there is another that is the Malwa plateau. There is a Vindhya range. Okay, and this is 100 meter to 300 meter high range. Okay, so like this you have to note down the points. Okay.
The eastern plateaus lie to the east of the central plateaus. It consists of the Baghelkhand plateau and the Chota Nagpur plateau. The Baghelkhand plateau is bound by the Kaimur and the Maikal range on its west and the Chota Nagpur plateau to its east. It is drained by the Son river and its tributary, the Rihand river. To the east of the Baghelkhand plateau is the Chota Nagpur plateau. The Ranchi plateau is the highest part of the plateau. The surface is characterized by flat-topped hills of metamorphic and igneous rocks. To its east lie the Rajmahal Hills. The easternmost extension of the main peninsular plateau is the Meghalaya plateau. This plateau comprises the Garu, Khasi and Jaintia hills. This region receives the highest rainfall from the southwest monsoon.
Yes, so you have plateau and with the direction to it the east. Okay, so that whatever the plateaus were like mentioned, so this all were covered with the different hills. So you have to remember that all things, that which plateau is covered to which all hills. It can be asked in the exam that which is the place where there is a highest rainfall took place in our country. So that will be the Meghalaya plateau. Okay. If it is asking about the plateau, then only you will write this answer. Otherwise, the name is Maheswaram, in which the highest rainfall took place in our country. Okay.
The triangle plateau that lies south of the river Narmada is the Deccan Plateau, which is higher in the west and slopes gently in the east. The Deccan Plateau is bordered by the Western Ghats in the west. The Western Ghats rise sharply from the coastal plains and are also called the Sahyadris. Their highest elevation is in the south. The Eastern Ghats form the eastern margin of the Deccan Plateau. They are not continuous in nature. They are dissected by the east-flowing rivers of Deccan Plateau. The northern part of the plateau is called the Maharashtra Plateau, that consists of steep hills and broad valleys. The Telangana Plateau, that lies largely in Andhra Pradesh, is hilly and covered with forests. The middle part of the plateau is known as the Karnataka Plateau. It has the river Krishna that flows to its east and the Kaveri to the southeast. Beyond the Karnataka Plateau, the Deccan Plateau becomes an arrow. Important hills of southern India, like the Nilgiri, Annamalai and Cardamom, are located here.
Okay, so you have seen that the Deccan Plateau covers the maximum South India part, okay, and there are the different hills, there are the different plateaus in the different states, so that all things, as you have seen in the video, you have to remember it, okay.
The river Narmada is the largest west-flowing river in India.
Okay, so you have to remember that the Narmada river is the largest river in the western part of our country. Okay, it is not the whole India but the western part of our country. So the Narmada is the largest river.
The river originates at Amarkantak in the Maikal Hills and drains into the Arabian Sea. It does not form a delta as it flows through hard rocks. The river Tapi originates from a place called Multai in the Satpura range. It runs parallel to the Narmada and drains into the Arabian Sea. The river Mahanadi has its source in Dandakaranya in the Bastar district of Chhattisgarh. It largely flows through the state of Orissa and finally drains into the Bay of Bengal. The river Godavari is the longest river in South India. It originates from Trimbakeshwar in Nasik district of Maharashtra and empties itself into the Bay of Bengal.
So in the southern part, if it is asking, so the river Godavari is the largest river in the southern part. If it is about the western part, it is Kaveri. If it is about the southern part, it is about the river Godavari, which started from Trimbakeshwar and then it goes flow down to the Bay of Bengal.
The river Krishna, the second largest east-flowing river, originates at Mahabaleshwar in the Western Ghats, flows eastwards and drains into the Bay of Bengal. The river Kaveri, or the Ganga of the south, originates at the Brahmagiri hills of the Western Ghats.
So the question can also be asked that which river is called the Ganga of the southern India. So the answer will be the Kaveri, okay, and the Kaveri river also started from the Brahmagiri hills and then ended to the Bay of Bengal only. So you can see that in the southern part, whatever the rivers are Bengal only. Okay.
Flows eastward and joins the Bay of Bengal.
Fine. So students, you have seen the different categories of the plateaus and the major rivers of the Indian plateau. Again, I am saying students that you all have to just remember all the details. In this chapter, there is nothing like, to understand a very difficult concepts, but it's just the different information which you need to remember and you just have to learn it. Okay students, let's just go for the next topic. So our next topic is what? Let's just see this. Okay, northern plain we have done. We have done the peninsular plateau. Now it is about the Indian desert. Okay, let's just see this. We will discuss now about the Indian desert.
The Thar Desert lies in the northwest region of India. It is spread mostly over Rajasthan and some parts of Haryana, Punjab and Gujarat. Click a label to learn more about the Thar Desert.
Okay, so the first of all we are talking about the Thar Desert, and here the different categories in which we will discuss about this Thar Desert, that is what is the climate condition, what is the vegetation, what is the wildlife and what is the lifestyle of Thar Desert, that is in the state of Rajasthan. So let's just see first of all the climate.
In the Thar Desert, the days are very hot. However, the nights are much cooler. The Thar Desert receives very little rainfall. So, it has a hot and dry climate.
Okay, so what you have just seen in the Thar Desert climate, that there are the hot days, but there are the cooler nights, and there is a very little rainfall. That is why the atmosphere is a very dry one. Okay, so this is all about the climate details. Now let's see about the vegetation.
Sandy soil and less rainfall make it difficult for plants to grow in the Thar Desert. You will find cactuses, short shrubs and woody trees in the Thar Desert. They are specially adapted to grow in desert conditions.
Yes, so obviously as there is a very less rainfall and it is a desert area, so there will be no greeneries, only few the trees or the plants can take place there. So the plants like cactus, then there are short shrubs and then the desert trees which were found in the Thar Desert. Okay, now let's talk about the wildlife of Thar Desert.
A camel can live without water for days. Its padded feet help it to walk easily on hot sand. You will also find peacocks and the Indian gazelle in the Thar Desert.
Okay, so the wildlife, what we all know that the camels are found in the desert only, and that is why it is called as ship of the desert, because they can survive with the very less water. Apart from that, what other wildlife we can see? So that is the peacock and the Indian gazelles which were like found in Indian this desert, that is the Thar Desert. Okay, now let's see about the lifestyle of Thar Desert.
People of this region mainly live in huts made of clay and straw to escape the heat. They wear bright, colorful cotton clothes. Their diet mainly consists of dry beans and dals. They have adapted well to the extremely hot and dry climate of the Thar Desert.
Okay students, so here the huts in the Thar deserts were formed in such a manner that they will absorb the heat and they will feel cool, or they will form the houses in such a manner that they will get relief from this hot climate. The traditional dresses are very colorful and they are eating more pulses in food. Okay, so this is the lifestyle, how they live, what kind of tradition and culture they were like adopted. Okay, so this all things were there, okay, about the what about the Thar Desert details. Okay, let's just see the next thing. Yes, students. So basically, in this only this much is there. Okay, that the Thar Desert we have discussed this all things. Okay. So basically in Indian desert we have to discuss about the Thar desert. We have discussed that. One more topic is left, that is the coastal plains and the islands, and then the question answers are there. So that we will discuss in the next class. Now for today's session this much only, students. Whatever you have like learned, okay, you just make a short notes of that all things, and moreover you need to read all the things from your books. Develop a habit of reading the books. Whatever you are not understanding, just mark it and find it the meaning from the dictionary or take the help from Google. Okay, still if you are not finding it, then you can ask me. Okay, apart from that, whatever the definitions and the important points are there, take pencil in your hand and while reading just mark that all, so that what will happen, that you will feel a good command over the different topics, that yes, in this all topics this all things were there, I have read it and already I have marked it. So once the exams will be there, it will be very easy for you all to find all the important points. Okay, and because obviously the maximum exams will be in the form of objective type only, like as your first periodic is also going to take place in September month. So in that also we are going to take the questions in the objective forms also. So you will able to solve the questions only in such a manner properly when you will have a good command over the book. Okay, when you will read all the materials properly. Okay students, so I hope you will utilize your time and everybody has purchased the book and preparing the notes. Okay, because soon maybe I will call the notes also from you all people. Fine students, so till this class, this much only. Take care of yourself, okay students, and utilize your time. Thank you.